Are you looking to progress your snowboarding to a frontside 360? Well, in today's video, we're going to do just that. Now, we're not going to just go straight for the gnarly jumps. We are going to build the progression, but make it to the end of the video because I'm going to show you how to do this trick on this jump. So let's get started. With this progression, I love teaching people how to do the frontside 360 out of the park, so make sure you find a green area that is relatively groomed, nice and smooth, and with the least amount of people as possible so that it's not so scary. When we are doing this frontside progression, we will make sure that we're always leaning uphill. As a snowboarder at your level, you know this, but just a friendly reminder, when we're on our heel side edge, make sure you're leaning uphill with your toes lifted up. As the front side of our body is uphill and we're on our toes, make sure you're leaning uphill. The last thing I want you to do is catch an edge. Now that all of that is out of the way, let's start this progression. Now I am starting on my heel side edge. I'm gonna make a slight heel side turn with my lead shoulder wound up more so over my toes, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to extend, get tall in my legs while throwing my lead shoulder. This is how we're going to generate the momentum when it comes to our park trick. But for now, definitely try to exaggerate this so that you can understand the mechanics. As we're going and rotating the 360 degrees, there's a couple little marks that we got to pay attention to. As we do our first 90 degrees, I like to engage my core, allowing my upper and lower body to rotate together. And then I'm going to continue that rotation until my board has completed 270 degrees and I am now across the fall line with the front side of my body facing uphill. In this specific position, you're going to notice that I allow the front side of my body to stay uphill a little bit, and then I let the board finish the last 90 degrees of rotation. From here, you have two options. Now, you can finish the trick with the logo facing uphill. A lot of people teach that so that you can slow the rotation down. I'm a big fan of that. But what I like to do personally is I like to rotate all the way back to my toe side edge, and then I will have my eyes and my lead shoulder complete the full 360. I definitely recommend trying both of them when you start out, but the goal is to be able to learn both of them so you can be as versatile in your riding as possible. I recommend that you do this anywhere between 10 and 20 attempts just so that you can really understand the mechanics and the body position as well as build the awareness. And another bonus thing as you're doing this, you're starting to understand how to spin without catching an edge, which we're going to use in the next step. Are you going snowboarding and need goggles? Cool, then check out the benetek viewfinder goggle. Why, you ask? Because it's an essential item for the slopes, and I've spent over 4 years developing this product so you, as a snowboarder, could benefit from it. In my lifetime, I've spent over 3,000 days on snow, and I've used multitude of goggles, some great, some good, and some absolutely terrible. But the viewfinder goggles have been built for those days, knowing what works and what doesn't. Our lenses are built by Zeiss, and we went for the higher optical quality, which means that you can see the contours and the definition better without sacrificing your retinas to the sun gods. Get more information on the benetek goggles by clicking on the link below. Now it's time to have some fun, so we're going to introduce a little bit of hang time to our previous step. Our goal is to jump and do a 90 degrees and then swing the board around and finish the trick. Now the 90 degrees, as you do that, make sure you land with your toes up so that you don't catch that edge, but we're starting to introduce a little bit hang time. Now the reason why we're going to do this is we're going to start to understand the intensity of our throw and our wind up. The more we throw, the more we wind up, the more we're going to get, but we're also cross-training your skills, so if we happen to under-rotate unintentionally, that you're not going to crash and get hurt. So go ahead and do a 90 and then finish the 270. Once you're feeling pretty awesome about the 90, go ahead and wind up a little bit more, jump a little bit more, and let's complete a full 180 in the air and then land back on our toe side edge. And then of course we're going to try to complete the whole thing, but if you need to do it like this where I pop, finish, and do it really slow and have it very separated, absolutely not a problem. I also don't expect you to be able to do the full 360, so do your best to try to get as much rotation as you can. But if you're looking for a challenge, definitely try to wind up a little bit more, pop a little bit more, and try to get the 270. On this one, notice that I removed the pop so that it's more of a 270 finish really quickly versus a 180 to 180 pop, throw, land, finish stop rotation on that toe side edge. So if you're feeling pretty comfortable, definitely do that. And then if you're looking for a bonus challenge, try the full frontside 360 in the ground. But this is extremely hard for even the advanced snowboarders. So if you can't do the flat ground 360, don't be hard on yourself. No big deal. You can still bring this to the park without actually being able to do it flat ground. And before we hit any jumps, I definitely recommend that you find a jump with the least amount of consequences, preferably in the smaller park. We're here at Woodward Copper. They got a small jump. We're going to be hitting that. Now let's take our frontside 360 to a real jump, but a couple things to know. We really got to focus on everything that we've learned before, but the biggest difference is our timing. We have a definitive spot that we're gonna have to take off, so everything before that has to be at the right time. Now let's go through getting on that heel side edge. Now I personally like to work backwards, meaning we have the jump and I know I need to take off on a heel side edge, so that's gonna be my last turn. And I usually like to do about 3 turns. So I got heel side turn, then I automatically know I have a toe side turn, and then in theory, I'm gonna start going to heel side first. So that's just a way that it helps me evaluate what's going on. If it's a longer run in, I may do 5 or 7, but keeping the number odd. So then that's just gonna help me go heel side, okay, cool, toe side. Oh, then I know that my last turn is going heels, and that's where most snowboarders struggle, is just which edge do I take off and how the heck do I do this? But of course, when going into that, at the flat section of the jump right before it goes to up transition, I recommend that's when you start getting low and your shoulder is winding up. By the time I start to extend and my lead shoulder is about 90 degrees rotated, I should be just taking off on my last third of my heel side edge. We know it sounds pretty specific, but that is the goal, is to be able to take off on the edge, which is going to allow you to maximize both your amplitude, so you have enough hang time to get your 360, but you're also going to maximize your distance so that you can clear the jump. And as we take off on that heel side edge, I recommend that you minimize your skid. Now, as a rule of thumb, I like to skid about 15 degrees to help that edge release so I can get the spin going, but any more than that can cause a lot of problems, and it's because if you go to 90 degrees, you're essentially putting the e-brake on your car and you're going to lose a lot of distance. Now, a lot of people love to do a heel side skid and they generate their rotation from that skid, which is not transferable to bigger and bigger jumps. What you should do, which we learned earlier, is we should be winding up through our spine and letting our spine generate the rotation and our legs generate the pop. So with that said, we're gonna do a nice 360. Now, the very first time might be a little scary, so remember, as we throw it, we do wanna look back up the hill, get our logo to spin 270 degrees, and then we're gonna finish on that toe side edge with that last 90. If you happen to come up short, just remember, keep your belly button over your toe side edge, and you're gonna be able to skid that last 90 around. Now, the goal is to not skid the takeoff and skid the landing, but if you need to do that just to be comfortable with this trick, absolutely, but just know that there is more progression to happen, which is take off on a clean edge, 15 degrees, and then land on a definitive toe side edge. As you've landed a couple 360s, I definitely recommend bringing your knees up so that you can be in a more compact position. And the best part is as you start to go bigger or go into bigger tricks, that in a compact position, you're gonna be able to spin at a certain rotational rate, however fast you're rotating. As I lengthen my body, I'm actually gonna be able to slow that momentum down, which helps me directly influence where my board is gonna land, whether it's short or downhill. I have control of that. So as you start going into bigger tricks or bigger airs, you wanna be able to open up to slow down your momentum so that when you land, it's not so scary. And then when it comes to landings, again, we talked about toe side edge, but definitely make sure you're jamming that toe side edge in so that you can lock it in and that lead shoulder doesn't keep going. The goal is to not land on the heel side edge, because what happens is you land and you skid out and it's not awesome. So land on your toe side edge. And then the next progression to work on after you've gotten a couple 360s is grab your snowboard. One of my favorite grabs is going to be melon. And the reason is 2 things. 1, I wind up and I throw. Well, guess what? Lead hand behind the binding is a very natural rotation, and the only way for me to get this is by doing it correctly, which means I need to bring my knees up so I'm back in that compact position we just talked about. So that's 1. The other thing is it's really easy for me to grab and look in the direction I'm going, allowing me to continue the rotation of that 360. So if you're looking for a challenge, grab melon. It's the best time ever. If you found any value in this content, definitely give the video a like and share it with a friend because we want to make everybody as awesome as possible. And like I said, if you're looking for a pair of goggles, tech hoodies, or gloves, check out shopbenetek.com and you're amazing. I'll see you in the next video. I don't know when that is, so subscribe. Are you going snowboarding and need goggles? Cool, then check out the benetek viewfinder goggle. Why, you ask? Because it's an essential item for the slopes, and I've spent over 4 years developing this product so you, as a snowboarder, could benefit from it. In my lifetime, I've spent over 3,000 days on snow, and I've used multitude of goggles. Some great, some good, and some absolutely terrible. But the viewfinder goggles have been built for those days, knowing what works and what doesn't. Our lenses are built by Zeiss, and we went for the higher optical quality, which means that you can see the contours and the definition better without sacrificing your retinas to the sun gods. Get more information on the benetek goggles by clicking on the link below.